much money, and they only lived in a little house, so there was no hope for the little boy ever getting a horse.
So
One,
that little boy grew up around when they had only one-room schoolhouses.
that's right.
I'm just getting the setting right so that other people, while they're looking at the camera, can get a quote-unquote good picture of the story.
Okay. So that one day the little boy couldn't believe what he saw, but up the street at Walter Shank pulled up in front of his house with a trailer and went down and opened the trailer and let out the most beautiful Palomino golden horse he had ever seen. And the horse's name was Goldie. Unfortunately, Goldie was so highly spirited that almost nobody could ride her. So Walter Shank brought this horse home, and he took the horse down and he put it in the meadow. Now this was a pretty meadow. It had a lot of grass, had a nice stream running through it, and at the far end of the meadow were shrubs and brush and trees. So Walter put Goldie in that meadow, and then Walter went off to work. Well, the little boy just loved that horse. So he went down to the fence and tried to call the horse over to the fence, and the horse would not come. And he went down the next day and stood by the fence, and the horse would not come. So he decided what he would do is go to the refrigerator and get an apple and an orange and take it down and see if Goldie would be interested in eating an apple and an orange. An apple and a carrot, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, a carrot. So the little boy went down with the apple and the carrot, and still Goldie would not come. And this went on for a number of days. The little boy would go home from school, take his apple and carrot down and call to Goldie, and she would not come. One day the little boy decided he was going to crawl over the fence and go right out that meadow to the horse and feed the horse. Well, he crawled over the fence and started walking towards Goldie out in the meadow, and Goldie ran to the far end of the pasture and hid in the brush and the trees. Well, the little boy didn't know what to do. So he finally decided to take his apple and carrot and walk right across the meadow and go into the trees where the horse was. So he walked over and he found Goldie in the trees and the brush, and he held out the apple and the carrot, and guess what? Goldie started to eat the fruit right out of his hand.
You mean fruit and vegetables?
Fruit and vegetables. Fruit and vegetables. So the little boy decided that was a good way to do that. So when he came home from school, he would get some more treats for Goldie and go down. And one day he decided he was not going to chase Goldie all the way into the bushes. So he stood on the fence and called Goldie, and guess what? Goldie came right across the meadow to the little boy and ate the food out of his hand. Well, this was wonderful, but one day it started to rain. And it rained, and it rained. And the next day it rained, and it rained. And the third day it rained, and it rained.
And she got stuck
The
out.
little boy came home from school, and what do you think he saw? There was Goldie up to her belly in floodwater. The stream had flooded. It flooded the whole meadow, and there was poor Goldie standing in water up to her belly. Well, the little boy didn't know what to do, so he went down to the fence and he called to Goldie, and Goldie came right over to the fence and stood very, very still. Well, the little boy crawled up over the fence, he threw his leg over Goldie's back and sat right on Goldie, and she never moved. She stood very, very still. So the little boy reached over and unhooked the gate and opened the gate and then led Goldie right out of the pasture onto the road. And he didn't have any saddle, he didn't have any bridle, but Goldie was very calm, and Goldie started walking up the road.
Were you dressed like in Jesse's school clothes, or were you just like
from school. And we went up to the corner, and Goldie turned the corner, and we started up the main street, right past the little store in the square, in the center. And guess what? All the little boy's friends had their bicycles, and they were sitting on the porch of the store when the little boy came riding by with Goldie. Well, you can imagine how they were shocked to see the little boy riding this horse, and the little boy was so proud of himself. The horse and the little boy rode right up the street to the far end, and at the far end was a barn, and that's where the horse was supposed to live. So the little boy took the horse right into the barnyard, and there was an overhang at the barn that if the boy stayed on the horse, he would hit his head on the barn. So Goldie stopped just short of that overhang and left the little boy slide off.